There is one floor plan on this list that almost doubles the size of its bedroom at the push of a button, with 0 ladders and 0 lofts involved. There is another one that has been cooling southern homes for 200 years without a single duct or vent, and builders are quietly bringing it back in 2026. There is a layout built for growing families that solves the 2-loft problem without needing 2 separate staircases. And sitting at number 1 is a layout that most tiny home shoppers walk right past because on paper it looks boring, but in person it is the one layout that consistently gets full-time residents saying this feels like a real house, not a box on wheels. If you are actually planning to buy or build a tiny home in 2026, the floor plan you choose will matter more than every other decision combined. Get it right, and a 300 square foot space feels open and calm. Get it wrong, and you will feel it within a week of moving in. Stick around, because the number 1 spot on this list is the layout almost nobody talks about, and it might be the one that saves you the most money and the most regret. Before we get into the ranking, hit subscribe and tap that notification bell. This channel breaks down real numbers on tiny and alternative housing. No sponsorships, no affiliate links, just the actual data, so you're not guessing when you spend your own money on this. Now, let us get into it, starting with number 10. Quick reality check before the ranking. The tiny home market is not a fringe hobby anymore. It is projected to grow from roughly $13.2 billion in 2025 to $14 billion in 2026, and that growth is being driven almost entirely by modular construction, prefab kit expansion, and demand for compact housing that people can actually afford to build in this economy. That growth is exactly why floor plans have matured so fast. Builders are no longer copying RV design or adapting traditional house plans that were never meant for 200 square feet. They are engineering these layouts from scratch, on purpose, for the way people actually live in them. So let us rank the 10 layouts that matter most heading into the rest of 2026. Number 10, the micropod, no interior walls. The micropod removes almost every interior wall and defines rooms using flooring changes, ceiling treatments, and furniture placement instead of drywall. This is the smallest true category in tiny living, and it works because removing walls does not automatically make a space feel bigger. What actually makes it feel bigger is light. A large open room with small windows and dark finishes will feel worse than a smaller divided space that is bright. So if you go this route, prioritize window area and light-colored, reflective surfaces before you even think about tearing out a wall. The trade-off here is privacy. If you live alone or as a couple who shares everything anyway, this layout can feel wonderfully calm. If you're sharing the space with a roommate, a partner on a different work schedule, or kids, this is usually the wrong choice. Number 9, the linear single-wall layout. The linear plan runs the kitchen and bathroom services along a single wall and leaves the entire opposite side of the home open for living space. This layout is popular for one very practical reason. Plumbing and electrical only have to run down one wall instead of being split across a floor plan, which keeps construction costs down and makes it a favorite for shipping container conversions and narrow trailer builds where every inch of width counts. The catch is that a linear plan can feel like a hallway if the home is long and narrow. The fix most 2026 builders are using is breaking up that single wall visually, different cabinet heights, a change in material at the kitchen zone, so your eye reads it as distinct areas instead of one long strip. Number 8, the classic loft studio. This is the layout most people picture when they hear the words tiny house. A sleeping loft above and a fully open kitchen, living, and dining area on the ground floor. The loft studio remains the most recognized tiny house floor plan because it is genuinely efficient. You get a full bedroom's worth of function without spending a single square foot of ground floor space on it. For weekend cabins, guest houses, or younger single occupants, this still makes a lot of sense. Here is the honest data point that a lot of builders will not tell you. Full-time, tiny home residents are increasingly avoiding lofts. The reason is simple: a ladder or steep stair you climb every single night eventually becomes a genuine barrier as people age, get injured, or just get tired of it after year 2. That is exactly why several of the entries still ahead of us on this list are moving the bedroom down to ground level. Number 7, the Dogtrot layout. The Dogtrot is a 200-year-old Southern house form that is having a real comeback in small and tiny home design in 2026. It is built as two separate wings connected by an open, covered breezeway running straight through the middle. The public side of the home, kitchen, living, dining, sits on one wing, and the private side, bedrooms or a guest suite, sits on the other. The breezeway between them was originally built for one job: passive cooling in hot, humid climates, and it still does that job today with zero electricity involved. There is a real cost trade-off here, so let us put an actual number on it. A Dogtrot costs more per square foot than a single mass home of the same size, because you're technically framing two connected structures instead of one, plus extra foundation perimeter and extra roof area. In real terms, that typically bumps your structural framing costs up by nearly 20% compared to a simple rectangular footprint. What you get back for that 20% is a genuinely usable outdoor room that separates noise and privacy between two wings without a single interior wall doing that job, which is very hard to achieve at tiny house scale any other way. Number 6, the dual loft family layout. This one is built specifically for families, and it solves a problem that used to require two separate staircases or an awkward mix of stairs and ladders. Instead of two mirrored lofts on opposite ends of the home, the entire upper level is one continuous loft area, divided down the middle by a single full-height wall. The advantage is simple. One staircase reaches both bedrooms, which eliminates the wasted floor space of a second staircase or a second ladder entirely. Builders using this approach are also pairing it with genuinely oversized bathrooms on the main floor, since family layouts tend to demand far more from a single bathroom than a couple or solo layout does. Think bath time for younger kids, a laundry nook, and enough storage that the bathroom stops being an afterthought. The trade-off is the same one that applies to any loft-based design. Kids and parents are still climbing a staircase daily, and the divided loft only works if both bedrooms can tolerate sharing one structural wall for sound separation. If your kids are light sleepers, budget for real acoustic insulation in that dividing wall, not just a standard interior partition. Number 5, the Gooseneck family layout. The Gooseneck layout borrows its structure from gooseneck trailers, the raised front section that normally carries cargo, and turns it into genuine architectural separation between living zones. Instead of relying on curtains or a thin partition wall to create privacy between a primary bedroom and the rest of the home, the raised gooseneck section physically lifts one zone above the main floor level, creating real separation that a flat single-level plan cannot replicate at the same square footage. This has made it a favorite for growing families who need genuine distance between parents and kids without adding an entire additional wing. The compromise here is length. Gooseneck builds tend to run longer overall, often in the 30-foot plus range, which affects towing requirements, road legality in certain states, and where you can actually park it. If you need to relocate the home often, measure twice before committing to this layout. Number 4, the road legal trailer width layout. This layout exists because of one hard constraint that overrides almost every other design decision: road transport limits. In most states, that means a maximum width of 8.5 feet and a maximum height of 13.5 feet for anything towed on public roads. Every design choice in this layout gets tested against those numbers before a single line is drawn: loft placement, staircase angle, even where the water heater goes. That is what makes this one of the most demanding layouts to design well, because there is zero room for error once the trailer width is locked in. The payoff for accepting that constraint is real mobility. If your plan is to actually move this home across state lines more than once, this is the layout category that keeps you legal without needing oversized load permits, escort vehicles, or special routing every time you relocate. Number 3, the expandable ground floor bedroom. This is one of the biggest shifts in tiny house design happening right now in 2026, and it is the one we teased at the very top. Instead of a loft, the bedroom sits on the ground floor and mechanically slides or expands outward, sometimes nearly doubling in size, once the home is parked and leveled. The appeal is obvious once you see it. You get full standing height sleeping space, no ladder, no compromise, and the home still travels at a legal road width when the slide out is retracted. Builders are pairing this with skylights and large windows in the bedroom itself, so you're not trading light for square footage either. Here is the pricing reality for 2026. Entry-level expandable prefab shells are currently running somewhere between $49,000 and $90,000 before you add site work, utility hookups, or upgraded finishes. That is a meaningful jump over a basic loft studio. And the reason is mechanical complexity. A slide-out or expandable section adds moving parts, seals, and a hydraulic or manual actuation system, all of which need maintenance over the life of the home. If you're buying used, this is exactly the system you want inspected first before you look at anything cosmetic. Ask specifically about the seals and the actuation mechanism, not just whether the slide-out currently opens and closes. Number 2, the open concept spine layout. The spine layout is the single most influential idea shaping tiny house interiors in 2026, and it is often confused with just having an open floor plan. An open concept in this context does not mean no walls. It means a continuous functional line running the length of the home, kitchen at one end near the plumbing and utility connections, living area at the other end near the main door or deck access, and a dining zone in between, often a fold-down table or a built-in banquette that pulls double duty as extra seating. What makes this layout rank so high is that it solves the biggest failure point in small space design: sight lines. When you can see clearly from the entry all the way to a window on the far wall, a 300 square foot home reads as significantly larger than its actual footprint. Builders across the board, from expandable home manufacturers to custom shipping container builds, are converging on this same spine idea in 2026 because it is simply the most tested, most livable arrangement at this scale. And that brings us to the floor plan sitting at number 1, the one we teased at the start of this video, the layout that looks the most ordinary on paper and ends up being the one full-time tiny homeowners recommend the most once they have actually lived in it. Number 1, the single-level ground floor plan on a permanent foundation. No loft, no expandable slide-out, no breezeway, just a single continuous ground floor with a bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, and living space all on one level, built on a rail foundation instead of a trailer. Here is why this beats every other layout on this list for the people actually living in these homes full-time. It removes every single accessibility problem at once. No ladder, no slide mechanism to maintain, no step up into a separate wing. It ages with you. A 25-year-old and a 75-year-old can both live in this layout without redesigning a single thing. It also tends to qualify more easily for accessory dwelling unit permitting under frameworks like IRC, Appendix AQ, frequently still called Appendix Q out of habit, even though it was formally redesignated, and it remains the closest thing to a model code for tiny houses under 400 square feet. Worth knowing too, a separate push is underway around IRC, Appendix BB, which is being developed specifically to regulate relocatable tiny houses on wheels. So if your plan is a home on a trailer rather than a foundation, that is the code framework to watch going into the rest of 2026. Jurisdictions are simply far more comfortable permitting a home that behaves like a small permanent house rather than something that reads as a vehicle, and that single detail has quietly become one of the biggest factors in whether a tiny home project gets approved smoothly or gets stuck in review for months. Let us talk about real numbers, because this is where honesty matters most. A foundation-based tiny home in 2026 typically runs between $300 and $400 per square foot. That number looks high next to a loft studio on wheels. And it is, but the reason is fixed costs, a full kitchen, a full bathroom, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC all have to be squeezed into a very small footprint. And those systems do not get proportionally cheaper just because the house is smaller. You're paying close to the same amount for the same systems as a much larger home, just wrapped around less square footage. The trade-off, and it is a real one, is land. A single-level plan on a permanent foundation needs more footprint than a loft design of the same square footage, since you are not stacking anything vertically. If your land is tight or you are planning to move the home later, this is the one entry on the list where a loft or an expandable design might actually serve you better. So that is the full ranking from the micro pod at number 10 all the way up to the single level ground floor plan at number 1. If you're actually shopping for a floor plan right now, the honest advice is this. Decide how you plan to live in the home in 10 years, not just this year, and then pick the layout that still works for that version of you. If this breakdown actually helped you narrow down your own floor plan, do 3 things for me. Subscribe so you catch the next video, drop a comment telling me which floor plan on this list you would actually live in, and hit like so this video reaches more people who are trying to make a real, informed decision instead of just buying based on a pretty listing photo. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.